Meeting will come to order. The time is 6:02 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Garrett? Mrs. Hess?
Here.
Mr. Holdren?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mrs. Stone?
Here.
Mr. Tadalini?
Here.
Mr. Chart?
Here, we do have a quorum. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded to adopt the agenda. Is there any discussion? There is no discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Chart?
Aye. Motion carries. Next item of business, consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Chart?
Aye. Motion carries. Next item of business, celebrations.
So we are thrilled to just take a moment to honor our retirees. We have several retirees tonight. A lot of them aren't able to be here, but I want to acknowledge them. And in addition, some of them, would prefer to stay out of the limelight and to. But I'm glad that Debbie Boone, if you would mind coming up. So, Debbie, how many years have you been in food service?
Well, I started subbing in '94, got on in '96, so a lot of years.
And we're going to miss her. She has provided a lot of wonderful, wonderful meals. And just the way she runs her kitchen, I've gotten to be over there for the Thanksgiving meals. And she just does a fabulous job. But she is retiring and stepping down at the end of this year. So we have a plaque for you. Let me get your plaque. And I'd like to take a picture. Let's see. Oh yeah, yours is yours coming? Yes, hers is coming. Yours is coming. So yours is coming, Debbie. Because you were late. But I still like to shake your hand, and I still love to get a picture of you in front of the board. Would that be okay? Okay, so board, if you don't mind rising. Mrs. Smith will take a picture.
How do you want us, Lacey? Just back here?
Yeah, maybe just back there against the wall.
Around wherever you need.
Don't totally cover that logo up.
Go behind him?
Yeah, or
Mom, you should lay down on the table. Can I stand? Stretch it out, Mom. Do a pose.
Did you want us to make room for that, or?
Yeah. Just here, I'll just walk.
She's not your dog, you're not claiming her
No, I'm
name.
not claiming. Not today.
There you go.
I know. You can still be seen right over your head.
Yeah.
You ready?
awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, guys.
Debbie, please help yourself to a piece of cake, and everybody in the audience, please have a piece of cake, and just thank you again for all of your years of service.
Go on.
Others that I'd like to acknowledge tonight are Danny Cordova, who's been a custodian for 5 years, Sherry Wagoner, who is the Thompson librarian, and she's been with us for 7 years, Wendy Richter, who's a first grade teacher, she's been teaching for 23 years. Winnie Lundy has been a SPED teacher for 8 years. Tom Rohn, a paraprofessional for 9 years. Dr. James Wilson, an assistant principal for 5 years. Jill Gleason, who is an intervention director. She was here for 30 years. And then Rosie Soda, a paraprofessional for 33 years. So just want to acknowledge all of their hard work. We'll make sure we deliver their plaques to them this week, and just want to thank them for their years of service to our school district.
Excellent. Thank you. Next item of business is a presentation from Thompson Primary.
Debating whether to sit or stand.
Whatever you
You know, when
prefer.
I teach, I usually stand.
Do
So I
however
don't
you
know
want.
if I can do this sitting. No.
You get to decide.
There's probably some teaching gonna go on tonight.
There is some, you know what, there's no probably about it. This is for each of you, this
Very
is some
good.
of our
Thank you very much.
Dibbles data. I'm gonna pass this out, and then I'm gonna try to sit, but you know, don't mind me if I just have to stand up as well.
Lori, would you like to control the presentation, or would you like me to?
I'll do it if that's okay.
It'll just be those little arrows.
Okay,
Click on it.
good. Yeah, I have mine. Okay, well, my name is Laurie Hansen, and I am currently a reading interventionist at Thompson Primary. I'm the first grade reading interventionist. And I've been in Brush for 6 years. I've taught in Brush for 6 years, 3 years in first grade and 3 years as the interventionist. But this is year 39 that I am completing this week, and I'm really not ready to be done. But, you know, we'll just see what life brings. So I am here tonight because I did a lot of testing in the last couple of weeks, and we, as a first grade team, had some incredible data. And so I thought, I really feel like I need to talk to people about this incredible data that we have. And so I emailed Marcia and said, hey, can I bend your ear for a little while? Because I just felt like people needed to hear some really great things happening at Thompson Primary. So she said, sure, and then she invited Lindsay, and then she invited Tracy, and she invited Lainey, and so we met for a good long time, and then Marcia was nice enough to invite me to come to speak to all of you. So tonight I'm going to really give some kudos to this first grade team. I am going to primarily talk about the first grade team and how we ended up with the data that we ended up with, in my opinion. And but I'm also going to share some things just about Thompson in general, because it's really, really incredible. So there's a great picture of my first grade team right there. I'm going to share their names. This was from Halloween. We were the Spice Girls. This is the only picture I could find of us all together. Sarah Unerick, she's been, and Tori Bobian, Stacy Champ, Chandra Johns, Raylene Massey, she's a para. That's me. Then on the bottom row, Kelly Lynch and Stephanie Gordon, she's a para, and Wendy Richter. So 6 teachers, 1 interventionist, 2 paras. Between the 9 of us, we have 174 years of experience working with these first graders this year. I was really proud of that number when I figured that one out. So let's see, I want to make sure. All right. And you know, I feel like I'm in a kind of a unique position, because as the reading interventionist, I get to work with all of the first graders at Thompson. I don't work with them all every day. I do test them all. That's just the way our team has chosen to do it. So I test all of them on the Dibbles test. But I work with them in the cafeteria, so I actually really do know all of them. And I do work with quite a few of them. I am in and out of the classrooms all the time. So I feel like I just have a unique perspective and can really speak to what's happened this year. So I'm going to share the data, and then I'm going to share why I think it happened. So this, you have this paper there with you, but this is Thompson's data from the beginning of the year. That's what BOI stands for, the middle of the year and the end of the year. And DIBBLE stands for Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy Skills. So what happens is we give it the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, and the end of the year, from kindergarten through 5th grade. And it really is, it's a little snapshot, well, it's kind of a big snapshot that says, this is where kids are right now, and here's the next steps. This is where we want to take them next. And I feel like it's something that really shows us growth, and I get a lot of data from the DIBBLEs. We also progress monitor students periodically depending on what level they're on. So here's what I really want to shout out. If you notice, at the beginning of the year, we started with, just at Thompson, 32% of the kids on red and 22% of the kids on yellow. So that's over 50% of the kids. Red means intensive, which is like well below benchmark. And we really know we have to give them some extra some extra help beyond the core instruction. So over 50%. Look at the end of the year. 13% on red, 12% on yellow, and 75% of our kids were benchmark or above. And so I just think that just is an incredible amount of growth. This is kindergarten and first grade. I mean kindergarten and second grade, and then I'm going to talk about first grade a little bit. But if you notice there, look at the end of the year in kindergarten. They had 78% of the kids in kindergarten on benchmark or above. And Sheila Bostrom, she is the reading specialist for second grade, and she was worried about her data being too low. But I'm going to tell you a little bit later, see that 20% on yellow? Keep that in mind, because I'm going to tell you a little bit later about something that, well, I'll tell you right now. So it's something that they do. So we are teaching kids in first grade how to read. We're teaching them the mechanics of how to read. And by the end of the year, in order to be that benchmark, they have to read 39 words in 1 minute in a story, in a text. Well, by second grade, they have to read 95 words per minute. So that's a big jump. And a lot of things happen, and it has to do it has to do with fluency and comprehension, but she was worried about that number, and I said, that is not a number to be worried about. I just also want to point, well, I'm going to move to first grade, and I wanted to point out, this was our data that we are extremely proud of, and so of these kids, we have 34 kids on a read plan. So a read plan says their scores were significantly below where we wanted them to be. So we write a read plan according to the state of Colorado that says we promise that we are going to help these kids in every way possible. And it's a plan that we make with parents and the teacher and the reading interventionist. And it says this is what we're going to do for your child. We have 11 kids coming off our read plans, and we had 4 move away. So we're really proud of that number. Of the 14%, I work with 2 of those kids that are 14%, and in the reading intervention program. And we finished off, we only had 2 kids on red in the reading intervention program. The other 14 have an individualized education plan, and they're in the special education program. So I don't work with those students. I'm not allowed to work with those students. So 2 of those red are all we had left, and they are both being retained. They're both very young. One of them has just moved into the school district not long ago. So basically, we're sending 0 students on from the reading intervention program of first grade on to second grade. That just is unheard of. So proud of that. That 8% is 7 kids that are yellow. All the rest are green and blue. And another thing that I'm super proud of up there, and I was thinking of Lacey because her son is one of these kids. See the blue? We moved from 30% above grade level to 35%. And that was huge for this year too, because usually what happens is they're on blue at the beginning. Sometimes they go down at the middle of the year because they're expected to do more. The test gets more difficult. Because they're already high, we had huge amount of growth. And I'm going to speak to why I think that is here in just a little bit. So, like I said, I am actually going to try to teach you a few things, because now comes to why. Why did this happen at Thompson in first grade this year? And this is just my opinion, but I think it's worth something. So I'm going to talk to you about why this happened. And one is the instructional components that we teach. So I'm going to start off by saying, how many of you have heard of the science of reading? Have you heard of the science of reading? I'm seeing a lot of yeses, a lot of hands going up. Good. All right, so I'm going to talk about because that's an important piece. For 39 years I've been teaching, I can tell you I did not start off using the science of reading. I have gone through a number of different methodologies in my teaching career. But I can tell you a lot of these components I have used for 39 years, but some we realize now we have to pay a lot more attention to. A huge piece right there, in first grade, students are getting 160 to 180 minutes every day of language arts instruction. So I'll talk about what that is. That's 2.5 to 3 hours of language arts instruction, because in first grade, our main goal is to teach them how to read. We do math, and that's huge as well. But we even teach our science and social studies in the process of teaching them how to read, the mechanics of how to read. That's the most important thing. So we spend a huge chunk of our day. So a few components that are super important. One is phonemic awareness, or there's also phonological awareness. And there are two slightly different things, but basically it's a lot of things about hearing the sounds of language. We talk about how you can do phonological awareness in the dark. So kids are breaking apart sounds and putting sounds together and manipulating sounds, and it's about rhyming and how many sounds in a word. So lots of things about the sounds. That's a piece that was added for me as a teacher in the last 10 or 15 years of much more focus. Our school district uses the Haggerty program. It's fantastic. Please don't ever stop having us use the Haggerty program. I feel like that's been a huge difference maker. The other day we shared some positive things on our team about our data, and kindergarten says it's Haggerty. Haggerty is what's done it. The second piece there is phonics instruction. I mean, have you heard the debate? Are you using phonics? Are you not using phonics? Well, I learned how to read without phonics, I have to say, as a kid. I didn't really have phonics instruction. But in Brush School District and in first grade right now, we do phonics. And we do phonics well, and it's all about decoding. We teach phonics skills, and I'm going to talk about kind of how that works in just a little bit. We also do sight recognition, so making sure they know the letters, making sure they know the sounds, making sure they know them quickly, and then sight words. I tell kids, hey, in this passage that you're going to read, most of these words are sight words, so you got to learn them. But you know what we're not doing is just flashing cards and saying, what's this word, what's this word, what's this word. We do that for maybe 2 minutes a day with small groups of kids. But first, we teach them about the sounds that those sight words make, especially the irregular ones, like the word said. Said is said, but the is spelled A-I. So we talk about why these things are the way they are in a lot of these words. And then we take the phonics skill that we're working with, and we teach all the sight words amongst those phonics skills that they have. And then, when they've got that pretty well, then we drill them for a minute or two. And we also let parents do that, because that's a job that parents feel like they can really do well. And it's true. You can tell the kids who practice or don't practice that. So that's the next part. I'm going to show you this next slide. I just put this on here real quick. Well, and this is a piece from the Science of Reading. So it's called Scarborough's Reading Rope. And so see down the bottom section? That's what we're doing in first grade. Each one of those strands on the rope is an important component of teaching kids how to read. In first grade, we focus a lot on phonological awareness, the sounds of the letters and sounds in words, decoding, and sight recognition. And I have to tell you, in my notes when I talked to Mrs. Cody, I put those things there, and then I'm like, you know, I should pull up that reading rope. And I'm like, hey, by golly, that's what we're doing. You know, it's not an accident. That's 174 years of experience coming together because we know what we need to do to teach kids how to read. So then the other parts are much more about comprehension, background knowledge. So the more you know about a topic, the better you're going to be able to read about that topic. We do that. We do vocabulary. We do lots of different comprehension activities. But in first grade, they can't read those books by themselves yet. So we read them aloud to them, and then we have lots of good, rich discussions, and then they have chances to practice their comprehension and their vocabulary in ways that are appropriate for first grade. It might be drawing, it might be creating some kind of something, it might be answering questions, and more writing eventually. Second grade really ramps up that comprehension piece. So we're doing it in our 2.5 to 3 hours of language arts. We're doing those top pieces, but we really focus on those bottom pieces. Let's see, I keep switching along. So fluency is another really important part. And fluency is how automatic can you do things. So the kids have to, on the Dibbles test, they have to be able to name the letters. Well, they're always excited when it's time to do that because they're like, I know the letters, but they have to do 60 letters in 1 minute. So that's fluency. They have to know them so automatically that it just comes. Then we do fluency with words, and then fluency with passages too. So it's a lot of eyes on print, and we're reading a lot. And then I talked about we do the comprehension skills. All of this is very much aligned to the science of reading. Science of reading, like I showed you with that rope here just a little bit ago. And again, you know, if my colleagues are watching this, which I think they are, I'm sorry to tell, they might not all agree with me, but we actually like professional development. Because professional development is how we really hone those skills. And we are really, I think, kind of thirsting for some science of reading professional development, because we haven't had a lot, and everybody does know, just like you all raised your hand, people know what the science of reading is, and they know components of it. But what happens when we have good professional development around that is that we have a chance to talk to each other about how we do it and what it looks like. And maybe we are known to argue a little bit about things. And you know, it just gives us a chance to kind of work with it. So that's really an important piece, is really knowing that science of reading. And then I want to talk to you for a minute about why it is systematic and explicit, because the science of reading is. And I think that's a big piece that we have done really well in first grade at Thompson. So systematic means you go in an order. There's a system to it. It's sequential. So we have phonics skills. It spells out which letter do you teach first, and then which of those skills do you do next, and which skills do you do next, and which do you do next. And you know, different programs have them slightly different, but really not all that different. We are very excited to have a new language arts curriculum that has a really good, we believe it's going to be a really good phonics part to it. There are 2 teachers on our team that use that, really liked this phonics skills piece because it was rigorous and it had a good pace. Right now we're using the Sunday phonics, which the school district has, and we've all liked it a lot. But we realized several years ago, you can't go at the pace that they go. If they go at the pace, we would have most of our kids on red and yellow. It's just too slow. They don't have a chance to learn all the skills they have to know to learn how to read. So we love the program, but we had to ramp it up. So when we did those units by design, which some of you might have been here when we did that. I can't even remember Val and Cody's organization. What is it?
Visionary education.
Yes, visionary education. They had us write units. We wrote into each month when we're going to teach these phonics skills. So we refer to that quite often so we can get everything in. We're super excited for the new CKLA curriculum so that we can utilize that. Oh, and explicit. I think the explicit piece is also very important. This teaching is not happening by accident. You know, I have to say, I taught for several years in a school district, and we did whole language. And we let kids explore reading in lots of different ways, but it was very kind of loosey-goosey. And you know, like, oh, hey, this is a great day to teach silent E. Oh, we're gonna do this today. We're gonna do that today. It happened haphazardly. Things do not happen haphazardly. And it's because it's explicitly taught. We are teaching those skills every day. That's what our standard is. We're going to teach those skills, and then we're going to let them practice them together with that guided practice. Then we're going to let them practice them independently, and they get to read text with those. It's very explicitly taught. So that's a huge piece of it. All right. So another big piece besides the instructional components is collaboration. And our team has a chance to meet. We meet once a week after school on Tuesdays. Lots of time to just talk and talk about what's going well in your classroom and what's not going well in your classroom. What were you doing when you were observed? And you know, that kind of thing. And so just great time to talk about everybody being on the same page, you know. And then we had the 2 people on our team who were part of that CKLA pilot, and they shared their experiences. I found myself as the reading intervention teacher going to them and like, well, what skill are you on right now? And then, okay, what should I be doing right now with my students, with what they know and with where I want them to be? So that time to collaborate was huge. And then the Sunday Phonics program, I talked to you about a little bit about that. Great program, way too slow. The pace was just too slow. But we've been able to still use that program, in fact, today I walked, I mean, you always, every day, we don't not do it. And they're still doing it today with only 3 days left of school, still doing that, but we've had to ramp the pace up. And then I talked about the units by design. So that collaboration is a really big piece. We're sad because our team's breaking up somewhat this next year. We have one moving to Beaver Valley as the instructional coach, Tori is, and we have one retiring, Wendy, and so we're a little sad about that. But and also our parents are leaving us, but we're sad about that too because they make a huge impact for us. But they're going to be in the SPED program. So then the next thing is time on task. You know, when I first started, well, not when I first was teaching, but a number of years ago, we had a person doing professional development, and they said, you know what? Teachers spend too much time on fluff. And I remember sitting there thinking, fluff? I'm not teaching fluff. Are you kidding me? You don't even know what I'm doing. And then she started giving examples, and I'm like, oh, maybe I do that, you know? And so I think partly because we're on a 4-day week now instead of a 5-day week, and for other reasons too, we have some real accountability. Are we teaching the standards? We have cut out a lot of the fluff. Now, are you going to walk into Thompson and they're going to have fun? Yes. Are you going to walk into a classroom that seems like they're not learning, they're doing things that just seem so fun and frivolous? Well, a lot of times we really try to make it geared towards the age of kids that we are teaching. So, but we really have tried to eliminate most of the fluff and be very honed in on what we're teaching, why we're teaching it, and how we're going to teach it. I think that is one of the biggest pieces that we're doing well, which means kids were successful at the end. We have core instruction. Core instruction means every kid there is getting the same instruction for that amount of time. 90 to 100 minutes. Phonics instruction every single day in that core instruction. Every kid in the room gets that instruction. Then we also have, the Hegarty is part of that. Writing is part of that. The comprehension pieces are part of that. But that 90, 100 minutes, that's what every child in the classroom is doing. And they're all getting the same material. Then in small group rotations, that's when we have a chance to work with kids just in a small group. And you might be working with the exact same skill with every single kid, but you're doing it in small groups so you can see how they're doing it much more closely. It's a time when you can guide their practice, or they practice it a little bit independently. So small group rotations for about 40 minutes. Also, a chance to make sure that some kids who are not getting it and they already need more exposure have those opportunities. And also kids who really got it the first time and they don't need a whole lot more exposures can take things in a more rigorous way. Then we have it's called FIT time. It stands for focused instructional time. And we have that for about 40 minutes a day. And during that has really evolved in the last few years. But the last couple of years, the way we have chosen to do it, each teacher has a partner. And between those two teachers, they mix their kids so that kids are getting a focused time on what they need instructionally the most. And this is where, and then there's been a para in there with them too. So it's another really, they're like getting triple dipped here because they're getting it in core instruction and then they get a small group rotation. Then they're getting it again during that FIT time. And then this is a place I feel like our high kids, the way we've done it is the higher kids in each classroom, depending on their test scores, I have gotten to work with those kids. And so when we started off, almost every year I've done this, we start off, I have like 6 or 8 kids. And by the time I finish, I have about 20 because we just have so many kids who have grown so much. But they are getting a chance to be pushed and be encouraged and really read things at their level and much more comprehension. And I really believe that's why, because we have that focused instructional time, our blue kids jumped up from 13% to 35%. I can't remember the numbers exactly, but I really believe that's part of it. We love that focused instructional time. So hopefully the minutes add up there. I believe they do. I also teach math a little bit. But then the other thing that happens is a small group reading intervention with me and Mrs. Massey. And so while the teachers are doing that small group rotation time, then we take kids who are intensive, well below on the Dibbles test, or below, the strategic, and we work with them on whatever skills that they need the most, using the very same, we do a lot of phonics. We have a phonics skill we're practicing every single day in that systematic, explicit teaching model. That's what we're doing in that reading intervention. So that's what happens with the time on task, and I believe this might be the biggest one, is that we're spending a lot of time teaching reading and having kids read. So I just was going to talk just briefly about kind of what I do with the kids when I'm with them. I work with the students who are on a read plan because of it being intensive or strategic on dibbles, and we work on letters and sounds and the fluency of the letters and sounds, and a lot of that systematic, explicit phonics instruction, which is a huge key piece of the science of reading. And it just makes sense for kids. I mean, we try to kind of laser focus what it is we want them to be doing. And every day, once they get proficient enough, they're reading a decodable text. And a decodable text means every word on that page, they should be able to read. So when I'm giving them, I say, hey, this is a text, you can read all of these things. Because they're sight words that they know, and they're practicing that particular phonics skill for the day. So those decodable passages and books are they're invaluable. They're also boring sometimes. Because, you have to make up a text that has all these controlled vocabulary, and you can only use these certain sight words. So sometimes they're a little bit boring. But we still practice them, and we try to get faster and faster, and it's amazing how much they like them. But also, we are, after they get to a certain level of proficiency, giving them books that are exciting for them and that they are motivated to want to read, and we try to give them time to have those books in their hands, because man, I can tell you, I have taught a lot of kids how to read using Biscuit the dog. I don't know if you know Biscuit, but a lot of first graders have learned to read on Biscuit. And it's not necessarily decodable, but we don't present it to them until they know most all the skills that are in that story. And they don't just give it to them, we read through it and we teach how that works, and they love to read those. So rereading texts, the decodable text and the other text is a huge piece of it, and then working on that sight word work and all those manners I talked about. So, you probably thought I'd never finish, but I believe I have. But I just want to say a lot of kudos. I just feel like these test results don't happen every year. I mean, this is the best test results I've ever seen as a classroom teacher, and I've only ever taught kindergarten or first grade or reading intervention as a classroom teacher or as the interventionist. So kudos to these ladies here, because a lot of hard work and a lot of experience and trial and error has come into where they are today and where our students are today. And so I'm really proud of them. So I wondered, anybody have any questions?
You answered a lot.
Yeah.
You're probably thinking, oh, she should have.
Congratulations, that's really exciting to see scores like
Yes,
that. That's
absolutely.
what we're all want to see, so
Thank
that's
you.
great.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that
You're
with
very
us.
welcome. We are very
Yeah.
proud of it. So thank you for listening. Thank you for inviting me to.
So, and I just
Share.
appreciate, one, your passion about students and their growth and the science of reading, so thank you for that. Thank you for still being a learner, too. You acknowledge that, and just the passion that the first grade team has, and I think that goes across grade levels, too. And just this commitment and dedication. Also, thank you for taking the time to share all of that with the board. They hear a lot about the science of reading. We talk about explicit and systematic instruction, and so thank you for taking the time out of your busy, crazy week and to come and present and share all of this, and thank you for all your work with kids that are obviously yielding result, you and your team, so thank you.
Well, you are so welcome. I love my job.
I'm
Really
so
love my
glad
job.
you did.
I love my team. Love being here in Brush and at Thompson Primary out of 39 years. Best school I've ever taught at. Absolutely, hands down, the best school I've ever taught at. So thanks for your patience and letting me share why I was so proud of our team.
That's what matters, that's why we're all
Thank
here.
you.
All right.
So thank you. Great job.
Okay, next item of business, CETA report.
Okay, so first up, for me, is that the
The Curriculum Council completed its review of our pilot evaluation data, and we would like to recommend that the Board of Education adopt CKLA as our district's ELA resource, K-5, for the next 6 years. I did attach a summary of the evaluation findings on this as well, so you can read through that. You'll see as you kind of read through the summary and then also the full alignment breakdown that the evaluations that we gave definitely favored CKLA across the board. And so we didn't really have a hard job when we met as a curriculum council.
Shortest meeting ever.
It actually was our shortest meeting ever, because the data was just so strongly was in favor of CKLA. Did you all have an opportunity to read through the summary of findings? Are there any questions on that or any clarification that's needed there?
No, I just want to thank you and everybody that was involved in that process, all the teachers that piloted it. I know that was a lot and a lot of extra time, and I appreciate your diligence and hard work on all that.
Yeah. And I would say a huge thank you to those pilot teachers. Pilots are hard.
Yeah.
You're learning a brand new resource while you're also expecting kids to learn. And that's just really hard. So I agree with you 100%. I appreciate all of the time that they put into learning those resources and then turning around and implementing them and still getting the results and the data that they were able to get. It's amazing.
Well, from an untrained observer, the classroom observations that I was able to participate in, the teachers did not appear that they were learning it. I mean, it was
Didn't they
like
do such a
clockwork.
great
Yeah,
job?
it was excellent.
They really did. Yeah, they did a great job with their instruction. So our final total for CKLA will be $208,537.60. So we'll pay for that out of budgeted funds from this school year. That's for the resources, the tangible materials that we're going to be ordering. And then $27,100 for professional development. And that will come out of next year's funds and possibly be covered by grant funding. And if it isn't covered by grant funding, then we'll cover that through our Curriculum Council funding. Moving on to high quality instruction. I'm actually excited that Mrs. Hanson shared that they love professional development and they're hungry for some professional development in the science of reading, because we're going to give that to them next year. So we have some professional development. It's called Digging into Literacy with Antonia Carr. And she is going to do professional development around the science of reading to really help deepen teachers' understanding of how students learn to read and how to apply that knowledge in the classroom on a daily instructional basis. So every day, what are those effective daily instructional strategies that they're doing that are aligned to the science of reading? All of our K-3 teachers have completed the science of reading required training through CDE. And this is just going to be a great opportunity for them to really think about all of that learning that they've done and really be able to apply it in their classrooms. This training we will have, I hope I don't mess this one up, we'll have 4 in-person trainings this year and next year, and then 4 coaching days this year and next year. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And so we're going to have a lot of support for teachers in the science of reading, which is going to be great because CKLA is a knowledge-based resource, which is not a resource that we have implemented in our school district before. Wonders was not knowledge-based, and it is very much aligned to the science of reading. So this is going to be great professional development just to help teachers with implementing this new resource and really honing in on those science of reading instructional strategies. One of the other professional development opportunities that we're going to bring into the district, back to the district, is the Universal Design for Learning. We offered this training last year, and it was kind of sign up if you're interested. And we had a few people that signed up for it, and everyone that completed this training really valued it and thought that it would be a great professional development for all staff to have. So this training will be district-wide, K through 12, and I apologize, the digging into literacy is just K through 5. But the universal design for learning will be K through 12. And this is an educational framework that improves teaching and learning for all learners by understanding the differences that all kids have. And one of the things that I really took away or that stuck with me when I did this training is that they talked about how learning is like your fingerprints. So every single person learns in a different way. And as teachers, it's one of our jobs to recognize the ways that students learn and adjust our instructional practices to help them learn the way that they learn best. And so I really appreciated that, and I'm happy that we're going to be bringing that into the district-wide. Any questions on those professional development opportunities?
Yeah, you don't keep it.
Instructional focuses, so we're still doing observations and still looking at learning objectives and measurable outcomes as well as student engagement. These percentages are updated as of May 11th. This data is going to be really good data for us to look at as we start planning for next year and start creating our unified improvement plans and really starting to think about where are those areas of success and where are areas of continued growth? Where do we need to spend some time and some focus and identify new goals and new areas of focus for next year? Data and assessment. We are almost all completed with our data. I found out today that we have just a couple kids that are straggling, so my report is a little outdated. But we have a couple kids who need to finish up. And so we're looking forward to kind of digging into that data and then presenting that to the board in June. I don't have any state data collection updates for you. I'm still working on all of the big lists that I gave you in April. One thing that I did also want to share with you is our Alma quote. So this is a new quote. I know that we had already presented this to the board and it was $25,000. As we were going through and reviewing, we recognized that we needed to add in attendance messaging back into our Alma quote. So that price is going to increase to $26,992. And I just want to share that our original quote that we were given was about $45,000 this year. And I was able to negotiate that down to the $25,000 and then add back in that parent messaging for $26,992. And I think that's one of the best negotiating jobs I've ever done, actually, because they cut their price pretty far for us. And what I did is I just reached out to other vendors and I asked them to quote me and give me prices on things that were exactly the same as what we had from Alma, and then I submitted that to Alma, and they met us where we needed to be. So
Good job.
yeah, that was great.
She did a very good job.
That's all I have for y'all tonight. Any questions?
Short and sweet.
Yeah, it was pretty short. Yeah, I've had 2 short meetings now.
That's unusual.
I know.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, next item of business would be executive session. Is there a motion to enter executive session?
I move that the Board of Education retire into an executive session pursuant to CRS Section 24-6-402, subsection 4, paragraph B, to discuss the following legal matters with its attorney, Steve Everall. Number 1, the status of negotiations with Rocky Mountain Construction Company and MDZ Roofing, including possible settlement of Morgan County District Court Case number 2025 CV 30049. And number 2, the status of negotiations with Selective Insurance Company regarding the school district's hail damage claim. And number 3, the status of the construction work for the repair of damaged buildings, including a proposed change order with the contractor Buildings by Design for the Ag/H building, the administration building, and the bus storage barn. Also in attendance will be Superintendent Marcia Cody, Lacey Smith, Keith Yake, and Jamie Lorenzini.
Second.
So moved and seconded to enter executive session. Is there any discussion? No discussion, roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess? Aye. Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Charter?
Aye, motion carries. To leave executive session? Oh, go ahead. Hold on, Steve.
Yeah, I'm here.
Is there a motion to leave executive session?
I, Jason Holder, move that the Board of Education leave executive session.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education leave executive session. Is there any discussion? There is no discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Turner?
Aye, motion carries. Time is now 7:36 PM. The executive session is concluded. We return to open meeting. Participants in the executive session were April Hess, Jason Holdren, Bryson Miller, Nicole Stone, Sean Tadalini, Paul Chard, Mr. Steve Everall, Superintendent Marcia Cody, Lacey Smith, Keith Yake, and Jamie Lorenzini. For the record, if any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into executive session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I would ask that you state your concerns for the record. Hearing none, the executive session is concluded, and I'll ask Mr. Holden to report on the executive session.
In executive session, we discussed the status of negotiations with Rocky Mountain Construction and MDZ Roofing, status of negotiation with Selective Insurance Company, and the status of the construction work for the repair of the damaged buildings.
Mr. Everall, will you certify our executive session?
Yes, that's correct.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
All right. Talk to y'all later.
Thank you, Steve. Bye-bye.
Bye.
If there are no objections, we'll take a 5-minute recess. Okay, next item of business, 8.1 DAC.
I attended the DAC report last Wednesday, and it was our last meeting for this school year. Big celebrations were the spring musical. Both track teams, middle and high school, were doing fantastic this year. And then recognition for the band teachers putting on excellent concerts every year. And along with a lot of appreciation for bringing cheer back to the middle school and high school level. A lot of parents were very thankful for that. A few things I wanted to point out was attendance. So like, everybody's been really focusing on attendance and doing great with it this year. Thompson has an attendance rate of 93%. Beaver Valley is at 95.7. And the middle and high school are at 92. And I think Beaver Valley's has gone up and the others have kind of stayed pretty consistent throughout the year. Mrs. Kimball went over the title funding and some other grant opportunities that we had. And then she also went over the whole CKLA presentation that we got here tonight as well. And DAC did motion to recommend that to the board. So that has been gone through DAC and been recommended up to our level. We were running up against a middle school concert, so Marcia very briefly touched on the budget, and then that was it. Good night. That's all I have.
Perfect. Thank you. Next item of business, 8.2 financial report.
All right, I will be brief. There's one thing that I have to get in our minutes, and it's a federal law, is we had our federal Head Start audit back in October of '25. We just now recently have gotten our findings, and there are two findings, and both of them are financial. They're both before I came, so wanted to go ahead and tell you what they were though, because I have to put it on record that it was said, so I have to send them a copy of that. Basically, the federal government reviewed our Head Start program in October 25. It could have been a lot worse. The lady, our auditor, was fantastic, and she worked with us on a lot of stuff while we were here. We could have like 10 findings. She was fantastic, but we have two. Number one is our administrative costs. You can only have 15% of your budget going towards administrative costs. We're at like 24%. How we fix this going forward is we have moved more of the instructional costs over there and put more of the administrative costs back into UPK because there's not the same requirements. So right now I'm at 10.7 estimated. So we should be in compliance with there going forward. That's number one. That's kind of how I'm looking at it. They're going to come out here in, I think like September, October again, and make sure we're in compliance with this. But we should be okay. The other one is the required financial reports were filed late. There are several reports. There's a lot to Head Start. There really is. There's really a lot to it. And one report was filed really late in their opinion by 178 days, and one by 104 days. There were actually a couple that were significantly more than that, but the lady let me do them real quick and get them submitted, so she really helped us. This lady was very nice. The deadlines are now on my wall. I mean, if you walk in, they're on my wall there. And I have them also on my calendar 30 days before they're due. So that's part of how I'm trying to mitigate that. I do want to say they will not let you approve one report until you get the one before completed. And I just want to say this because if it ever comes up to be a finding again, I submitted a report in December and I still have not got it finalized. And the one was due in April. I think 1st of April was the last one due. And I have not even been able to open the file yet. But I have about 10 emails in a file to a group of people letting them know that. So if we ever get audited, they can come back. But you physically can't open the folder to do the report until that's done. So that was another finding. We're going to try to do the best we can and try to keep records as best we can in case that happens again. But those were the two findings that I had to report to the board. So any questions on those? Okay. Budget. So I gave you guys all a budget packet. I want to go over some notes first. The good news is, and if you guys want to open it here, let me kind of just explain. I'm going to do this in brevity so we can get approved tonight and you guys can review it. If you have questions before we vote on the final, I'll be more willing to spend time with anybody that wants to review this. But when you turn the first page there's a table of contents. One thing that the budget hasn't had before that I want to make sure that you guys are aware we put in here is down towards the bottom. Not only is it broken out by every building location code for the general fund, there's also an other fund summary, which is number 16, which is every other fund that we have. But I also have the beginning fund balance resolution in here, which was for the retirees insurance. The appropriation resolution draft, which balances and ties to this budget to the penny. Salary schedules, and then just some CD school funding information. So it's kind of a one shop packet. Everything's included in one document. So I try to make this as easy for everybody as possible so they can just reference one place. The next page is pretty important, and this is kind of the one I wanted to talk about. The budgets are all balanced. It's a legal requirement, and I don't know how long it's been since we've had every fund here balanced. I think last year we were probably around 75% accuracy. This year I'm going to say we're probably around 90 now, and hopefully after we get the new system in place and I can run some better reports, I'm hoping to be around 95 or better. So I think we're getting about as good as we're going to get. But every fund is balanced. You see the variance on the right side, everything is zero, so that's what we want. We want a legally compliant budget. I do want to, before I go into detail too much here, I just want to kind of go over some notes. So a few things about this is the cleanup on this was massive, and I don't really feel it'd be conducive to our time right now to go over every single line item that was adjusted because there was over 750 of them. Almost every single salary account was incorrect. There were people in elementary being coded to high school accounts. There was somebody in grounds maintenance coded to the superintendent's account. I mean, it was just a massive cleanup. So we have spent hundreds of hours on this thing, like no kidding. And we went through every single account in Infinite Visions, pulled every person up and actually made sure that they were coded. We saw where they were and actually placed them in this budget where they needed to be. When we're doing that personnel list that you guys are looking at, there's also, it's probably hidden, but there's also another column over the side that we've been going through and putting the right codes on there. So it's all in one place, so we know when we enter contracts, we're just gonna be able to go right down there and do it accurately. So that should help us out a lot going forward. Like it's a lot. This is version 54 of the budget. So it's quite a bit. But a couple good notes is we've saved close to $750,000 to $800,000 doing some negotiations. Two of the most notable ones that are both insurance related is going from Hub Insurance, our traditional insurance plan. We are going to hopefully contract with SIDSIP, the Carlisle School District Self-Insurance Pool. Almost every school in the state does, at least 90%. And we couldn't get more than $25 million in property coverage out of Hub, and we're at $148 million with SIDSIP. So they're going to be able to cover us at a much better level. Their insurance for this year was about $850,000 to $900,000. Next year is going to be $650,000. So that's about $250,000 in savings. The other big part of the whole deal is our deductibles. So if we were to get everything cleaned up and have another $10 million claim, right now it's a $50,000 deductible, and 5% of asset is what we'd have to pay. So it'd be about a $550,000 deductible is what we'd have to pay down $10 million. Through SIDSIP, it's like between $5,000 and $25,000. So I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings potential. And the cool thing about SIDSIP too is they'll hold the money and they'll pay the claims directly. So we won't even have to mess with that if that ever happens again. So that's a wonderful thing. Health insurance, we also negotiated down our stop loss carrier coverage, which is a fixed cost, so it's guaranteed savings. Right now we're between 7 and 9% lower than we thought it was going to be, which is around $90,000 in fixed cost savings. So between that and the actual savings that we're projecting, I think we're going to be somewhere between $750,000 and $1 million right there, just in insurance savings next year. So that's something positive I wanted to note out. Everything's balanced, everything's came in, really good. I guess the one thing I want to also make sure we know is just future warnings. There's almost nothing going into savings or capital reserve right now. I think we have $100,000 going over for projects. If we get stuck in a situation over the next couple of years where the financing at the state level gets tough, that's something we're going to have to discuss because we can't defer maintenance forever. But by doing that, that also means we're going to have to cut the money from somewhere else, and that typically is going to mean salaries or programs. So that's a tough reality that we have potentially and probably will face at some point. We're also looking at a possible mid-year reduction or rescission this year. I was actually thrown a number by somebody at CD of around 40% is what they're thinking the possibility is, which in my opinion means that, I'm personally gonna count on something this year. So, don't know what that means yet. I hope we don't. That would be wonderful. But next year, if we do have to cut, just some things to think about is, we cut a lot this year. There was $5 million worth of movement and over 750 different line items got adjusted. So, we just need to make sure that we're under the understanding that next year is going to be really tough. There could be, program cuts, larger class sizes, all the above, potentially to balance. So, but I'm real proud of this budget this year. I think it turned out pretty well. So, like I said, it's balanced, it's legally compliant. In June, what I'm asking for is I'll bring this back as a final version for you guys to adopt. We'll have a public hearing here, which basically means we just open it up for hearing. If somebody's got something to say, you can listen. If not, we can close it. I hopefully will have relatively final health insurance plan documentations. If not, I will have enough of something where you guys can vote on it to finalize that. Hopefully gonna have the SID-SIP insurance contract as well. And then I will have the appropriation resolution, if the draft is also in here. And I think that's it. And that should pretty much finalize me legally until January. We gotta bring the final in, so. I'll let you guys go with this at your leisure. Please feel free to reach out if you want to set something up or you have questions. I think you all have my cell phone number. If not, you can call or text or whatever you may need to do. So I won't be here next week, but please send me a message. So that's all I have.
Can you talk through the process of going forward, why there's an action item tonight and authorization to publish the budget for inspection? How that looks?
So what we have to do is you have to post it and you have to give a certain amount of time. It's a legal statute that you have to post it for the community to be able to come in and review it, so that if they have any claims or issues with it, that they can come to the budget hearing and express those concerns or their thoughts.
So typically the budget hearing would be at the beginning of the June board meeting. Allows people to come in from the community and share those concerns.
Yep.
Any other questions for Mr. Yake? Very good, thank you. Next item of business, 8.3, board reports.
Well, first, I want to celebrate Keith because this looks like a really easy document and he has put endless hours into it. And so just want to express what looks like just like, oh yeah, you'll just create that document. A lot of time. He and I have met for many hours, but he's put, hundreds of more hours into this than I have even barely done, right, in comparison. So just thank you for your diligence, for your attention to detail, your care for our community and our district, and making sure that we're good stewards of our resources. So I appreciate that a lot. So thank you, Mr. Yeager. The other celebrations I have, and I'm thrilled to show to the board because there's a few. This is a fun part, right? So we had back to school day last Wednesday. The weather was lovely. Everybody got to school safely, from what I understand. I haven't heard any incidents, so thankful for that. Another piece that I am excited to share with you is the Alebregi project that Mrs. Barr did. And so here's a quick review of it that you can read. But what she did is she coordinated a project to work with second graders, fourth graders, and high schoolers. And hopefully you'll be able to see the pictures. I'm going to shrink this a bit to see if that will help. So a second grader, you can see up here at the top, would start with their idea of their Libre. And I think it says here what that means. Or to create imaginative Libres inspired by one another's idea. Drawings brought to life through collaboration creature. It doesn't have it here. I know she told me in person, but I apologize, I can't remember. It's like a mythological creature. It's something that has never existed before. So here is a few. So here's what a second grader put on, what they created, what the fifth grader built on from that second grader's idea, and then what the high schooler did. So again, here's the second grader's image, what the fifth grader did, and what the high schooler did. So you can see how they grew. Look at some of these.
That looks cool.
And then here's another one. So here's the second grader, and the fifth grader, and then where it becomes. And she had all of these posted for the art show. I just was in her room doing an observation and saw them and went, oh my goodness, those are incredible. So just appreciate all the work that she does and the ways that she creates experiences for students. The day I was in there, they were making figures out of egg cartons and cutting them and building them, and it was incredible. So just appreciate all that she does and the incredible work of our students. Just huge. Another piece here, going back up, is the FFA CDE contest. Dr. Charge, you want to share about that?
Yeah, so this was, I don't remember the date, but they sent several kids to CDEs. Trevor Ely won gold individual for ag mechanics. Sydney Spresser won gold individual for vet science, and the food science team won gold. And those team members were Sydney Miller, Paige Ozier, Anna Hess, and Emery Chard. And Anna and Emery were also gold individuals in food science. Crops team won silver, and there was numerous other students that won silver individuals. But a big thank you to the ag instructors and to the guest coaches who put in a ton of hours for these kids. Sally Holdren was the crops coach, Carter Mortensen, Mead Eval, and Morgan Mortensen helped with vet science. So big shout out to all those guys.
What a great opportunity for our students, for FFA students, and they did well. And there's a picture in the superintendent's report here you can see. So spring sports have now wrapped up. So I want to shout out some of the celebrations here. So our state qualifiers for our high school track and field. You can see the list of all the state qualifiers. Those that ended up on the podium, we had Christian Strohmeyer place 9th for long jump. Evie Lapp placed 7th for the 1600 meter. And our girls 4x1 relay team placed 9th. And Drake has ended up 12th in state for the high jump. In girls golf, Larkin Queen is currently at the state tournament in Lone Tree, and she plays today and tomorrow. Girls tennis, Adeline Mason qualified the state tournament as an alternate. In baseball, we went to Cortez over the weekend for the regional Region 3 baseball tournament. We played Pagosa Springs and lost in extra innings 5-4, and that ended our season. All conference, all state are yet to be determined. With middle school track and field, 7th grade boys, 8th grade girls, 7th grade girls won the team championship for the Northeast League at our league championship meet that took place on May 8th. And then for student council, high school officers for 26-27, you can see them listed there, and our middle school officers. So congratulations to all of them. All right, so lots to celebrate. It's good to remember all the good things that are going on. The last piece that I have here is Mr. Stone does a derby car race. I was able to see this in person last year. I wasn't able to be there that day. But you can see some of the derby cars that students make and the lesson, how it's connected to physical science is really interesting and fascinating and what they're talking about. My personal favorite is the pizza car that you'll see right there. I just thought that one was awesome. All right, so now going into the really fun stuff of my report, and everybody goes, yes, are so excited.
Can I do have a couple of.
Great. Celebrations?
Well, the board reports with CTE.
Okay.
is that where are we at that, or are we?
Yeah,
past
we
it?
were at board reports. We can, are you all right if we finish
absolutely.
I
board?
just wanted to.
Yeah.
Because I did, when I came in, the CTE deal, they just had a meeting when I first took over for Brad. I was a little bit late getting there, but I caught the brunt of it. And it's really neat what these kids, the opportunities they're being afforded outside of the norm. The culinary program, I visited with Mrs. Queen, several gold and silver medals in all the competitions they're doing with everything in that department. The digital media, and this just fascinated me. These kids are doing like a cartoon, and how much time it takes them to digitally get a cow to walk up and through a gate. And they were talking about it, and the one boy that was going through it was just, he was new here this year, I believe. I can't remember what his name was, but he was like, I didn't know they had this. And my dad said it's a really hard field to get into, but he was just, and it was really neat to see that. I didn't know of any of the awards from there. And then FBLA gave their presentation, again, several awards in the FBLA, but just the whole different, outside of the regular curriculum stuff, it was really neat. The arts deal thoroughly impressed me, but that was part of my background. The other one, Ag Advisory had met right before our last meeting, but that's when I was gone, so I caught up with her. They were showing $73,000 in their account, waiting for a few bills to come in. She did say that Thursday night was a huge success, and I asked her specifically if it changed from the Friday. She said physical numbers were down, about identical sales for tickets and all, but physical people showing up. But the auction, both the student and the silent auction, brought in more than it had ever brought in. And then some of the stuff that they've got the kids doing is working during the brush rodeo, helping out over there. They're doing an officer retreat sometime in July. And just FYI, they are still looking for one more advisory member for a spot to fill somebody that's not there anymore. So that should catch up the ag and the CTE.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Any other board reports?
Just quickly, from Finance Committee, Paul and I have met the last 2 months. Finance Committee, we've spent more time in this budget than we spent tonight. It's stellar. I don't know how else to explain it. The way it's laid out, the way it's understandable, and like Keith said, if you have any questions as you get a chance to review it, just reach out to him. But I think you'll find, especially that have been on the board in the past, this is laid out in a way that is really excellent to be able to follow and understand, and it's top-notch work.
Very good. I think we can move on to superintendent's report.
All right. There are several action items before you tonight. Obviously, your personnel report. Also, there's an updated 26-27 staff list, so you'll see that. There's also an action item to designate our critical shortage areas. That's a requirement with para. And a procedural rescission of prior conditional offers. So you'll see that as an action item. There's also an additional contract template before you, which is the non-instructional director contract. We realized the administrator contract was for our instructional admin. We also have other admin that are directors and are non-instructional, so that's before you too. As far as curriculum and technology, Mrs. Kimball already spoke on the ELA curriculum, so you'll see that as an action item. An exciting piece is we also had our Tech and AI Task Force meeting last Friday to start discussing what is responsible and appropriate use of AI. And at our last board meeting, it was Mr. Murphy presented the tech guidelines to you on behalf of this task force. And the technology use guidelines were developed by our 17-member district task force, which convened in the fall of '25. And we spent a lot of time reflecting on peer-reviewed research on screen time and student outcomes, the SAMR model for purposeful technology integration, and direct input from teachers and administrators across all grade levels. The guidelines establish a grade band expectation for educational technology use beginning in this next school year. We will be creating AI use guidelines, and we're planning to present those to you in spring of 2027. We also set up a review cycle for those EdTech guidelines. We're planning on looking at them in February of 2027 and then coming to you in probably April with whatever our new recommendations are, if those are going to change. And those will be also brought in at the same time as the AI guidelines. Any questions on that? So tonight before you is to approve those tech guidelines. There's also an action item about the All Student Information System Mrs. Kimball talked about. You can see the change in the quote and the digging into literacy professional development. As far as finances and facilities, you can go into your board tracking document, that 26-27 board tracking. Mr. Lorenzini and I updated all of the current projects going on, so you can read the latest and greatest on all of those. With the Thompson roofing change order, there's also an action item for that to bring in the total amount up to a certain amount and then giving me the ability to execute that change order. Just as Mr. Yates said, there's a preliminary budget that now will publish it. We will notify the community that it is available for them to view. There's copies of it in Mrs. Smith's office, and it was presented at the DAC. Another action item is the Thompson cafeteria tables, which were paid for with food service funds. This was a part of the spend down program, which you approved at a previous board meeting. Going into policies, I have two policies for first reading tonight. The first one is GBBR, Meet and Confer, met last Wednesday. And we didn't get as far in our agenda as we wanted to, so we're meeting again this Wednesday. So we'll probably provide an update at our next regular board meeting, which is June 8th. The topic that we spent the greatest amount of time on was our Meet and Confer Committee Policy, GBBR. You'll see a revision and at the beginning, which is, it should be BBA, that shouldn't be struck through. That should be BBA, it should be GBBA is struck through there. If you go to the second page, you're going to see several changes to align with the revisions to GBK and GBKR, which are on your agenda tonight. Another is under process for submitting topics. Under number 2, bullet 4, we added the words "if possible." Then they bring potential solutions for consideration. The topic of that conversation was they didn't want a requirement for a solution to prevent a problem, there was a sense that could. So if we added that phrase, it felt like it solved that concern. At the end, again, just a little compliance piece with GBK. The other policy for first reading and for your consideration to think about is a policy you just approved, which was DCBA-R. And what was realized is that when we crafted that grace period sentence at the end, and we put January 1st of 2027, that caused some confusion. So as a board, you'll need to decide, do you want to move that to be September 1st because The original desire, the original conversation was it was a one-time thing just in the fall semester. But the date does say January 1st, which made some staff members think that maybe they could also present those for the January 1st pay raise to move over to the lanes. So we need some clarification there. So what I would recommend is taking it to either August 1st or like January 10th. One of those two dates, just so it's clear. I think right now in yours, I think originally said September 1st, but it's August 1st. To go along with where the conversation originally was with that grace period. That'll be something to discuss at the next board meeting. For second reading tonight, you have GBGA staff health. I've already introduced from your time perusing this. Any questions on that one? GBGA staff health. Right. The next one is GBQEB. This is one that we spoke quite a bit about last board meeting. We talked about the retirees. So you'll see that this clarifies what a valid separation is as required by para rules, state statute, federal statute, and IRS rules. This, I also wanted to say, linked to my superintendent's report is the letter we received from para. I am thrilled to say we did receive a formal letter saying they will not punish past retirees. So I will be sending that out to retirees within the week. Any questions on GBQEB? Next is GBK, staff concerns, complaints, grievances. This is just to clarify, how do you resolve a complaint or concern? And what are the proper channels? I did receive some feedback from a board member that I thought was a great idea, is to perhaps take this idea of proper channels and complaint concern resolution and put it into our parent community K policy as well. So that's something to consider. Any questions on GBK? Right, GBKR is the regulation to that policy. Again, just clarifies how to, the process of a grievance. A grievance is when you see somebody that's not following policy. That's when you would file a grievance. The next are our J policies. This is about interdistrict choice and open enrollment. So you have JFBB, and then JFBB R1, R2, and R3. Any questions on those?
JFBVR1. I did have a question on, I think this third page. It says, while balancing non-resident and resident numbers, the district will seek to keep grade levels at or below class size guidelines established by the board. Are we expecting to have a number there, or?
That's a great question. So, and you can see my little placeholder there.
Yep.
So, a lot of school districts do set a cap, and that's been a conversation that we've had. So that would be a great conversation for right now. You've heard about, well, what, you know, if there was a mid-year rescission, what would we do? There's been no decisions on how that would be addressed, right? It would be a lot of discussions about what creates the least impact on students. I think as a board, we believe in small class sizes, I would guess. I mean, I'm saying we as a government's team, but I think that's something that we value. But what that cap is and what somebody considers small may be different than another person considers small. So what that looks like through the grade levels, that could be something that you can direct or task me with, is to say, hey, these are what our grade level caps are, our class size caps are. Or we can just say, nope, we're not going to worry about that. That's not a concern. I'm recommending that you do, but it's...
Do you think it's reasonable to dig into some research and see if there's data that supports a number in districts similar to our size and demographics?
I wish there was good research on class size. I could find research undoubtedly that class size matters, and I could find research undoubtedly that class size does not matter. At the end of the day, the greatest factor is the quality of the teacher. So you could have a class size of 35 students and an amazing teacher, a high quality teacher, and students will learn.
Yep.
And the inverse of that is true. Now, if you have an amazing teacher with a small class size, then you have a greater impact. So that's, in my vision, that is the goal, right? High quality staff across our district and have the capacity to meet the needs of our students. You heard Mrs. Kimball talk about UDL, science of reading, meeting students' needs. That learning is like fingerprints, and we need to be able to push our kids who are advanced, and we need to be able to meet the needs of students who need extra support while not taking away from either, right? It's about meeting, and to meet the needs of 30 students, I'm just tossing out a random number, while maintaining high quality learning experiences for all students is not only extremely difficult, some could argue almost impossible. So that's why I would recommend capping a class size. Now there's fiscal implications, right? So in other school districts, you can have a caveat, right? That in a fiscal emergency, also a hiring emergency, could you do that? Yes, you can emergency negate that policy and do what you have to do as a board. But just to state, this is what we do. So if you're enrolling a student from out of district and you know that you already have 24 students in that class or 25, whatever that cap is for that grade level, then it's an easier decision for that principal. Because it may be a great student, you just have to think about what that lift is and what's that point where we say, you know what, we've got to cap this because it's not we need to keep small class sizes and great teachers. So, thoughts on that?
I guess I think it'd be nice to be able to set a class size for the entire class, but how does that translate to classroom numbers at different grade levels? Because like right now, 3rd, 4th, 5th, we've got 3 teachers per grade level. I think that looks different at Thompson, right?
It does, and right now, our class sizes, I'm actually meeting each class. So for Kinder, what is that number? And I don't want to say the number because I don't want to make a cap
Like
for
graduating class.
So not the graduating class, so it would say for kindergarten, our max number per class would be X. For first grade, our max number of students per class, per grade level class, would be Y.
Yeah.
And it would go all the way through. So you could have 200 first graders, but you would have to keep your teacher to student ratio at a certain point.
I guess I completely feel completely unqualified to even throw a number at that.
Right.
I
I'll
do
look at
too.
some-
We're gonna
ways to
lean
figure
on
out
you
data.
real hard on what.
Because none of us really.
What I will do, which I think might be helpful, is I'll just provide some various districts' policies with caps. Before we even go forward with doing that, we have time. Why don't we just look at it, and then you can think about it, have some time to ponder it, and then we'll come back together. And I am happy to also share some research. Like I said, you can look at both for and against. The against is because if you have an ineffective teacher with 10 kids, that doesn't create great outcomes, right? So, because the teacher matters, and that's what we know, a teacher matters.
I like that per grade level idea because I think it's the current 8th grade class that's so big.
7th grade. Yeah, certain ones are really big and some are smaller. And
So that allows you to limit out-of-district kids that would impact that
Those large
graduating
classes.
class, I guess, basically, but.
So something to consider. I'll bring you more information and then we can go forward from there. How does that sound?
Perfect.
One way or the other.
So in your opinion, this is a governance item that we should look at?
I do.
Okay.
It's not something you have to do this school year. I would simply strike that from this revised policy, right? Which probably we'll need to do if you move this to third and final reading. But it is something to consider as far as a district. Where do we want to go and what matters? Without that, you can't keep, it's harder to deny enrollments.
So then how would that look if you had an out-of-district kid starting in kindergarten here, and we're not at that cap, and then somehow we get like an influx of people living within the district and we're at that cap? What would happen to that kid living out of district?
Right, then the out-of-district people could lose their placement depending on how you have your policy. And what this policy is also doing, as you probably saw, is that if there is a situation where a student is making great decisions and they are out of district, then the decision to enroll them will be reconsidered. And that's part of it, is that if we are accepting out of district, we want out of district students, absolutely.
Yeah.
We appreciate all of our out of district students, and we believe being a beat digger is the best thing. So that is imperative to us to have out of district students. We want them and we appreciate them. And we want to make sure that all students are maintaining high expectations for themselves academically and behaviorally. And one of the pieces that we noticed we needed to look at in policy is if an out-of-district student is causing, making decisions that are taking away the learning environment from making it hard for others and causing additional resources to go into that student, then we need to have some conversations about, is that a good fit? Is this district the best fit for that student? And so it's an opportunity to say, hey, let's talk about it. And let's look at it again.
So does it make sense to advance any of the JFBB policies if we're,
You could certainly table it. And I would, at this point, since we want to spend some time thinking about this and researching it, my recommendation is hold. You don't need to. We have plenty of opportunities to move forward. We do have registration in July, so if we wanted to move forward, that is a factor for out of district. As you know, I think it's more important to have a good, correct policy than just to move a policy forward. So if I were in your shoes, I would table them.
Can we just amend it and take the one phrase out for now and then add it next year?
You certainly could do that too. And especially since it's a regulation, you don't have to take that through 3, but I always think it's best to treat regulations similar to policy.
does everybody think that's what we should do, is just take that line out and then go ahead and advance the policy with that line removed?
Well, you have to. You can't pass a policy that calls for something that you don't have implemented.
Right.
So,
Or do we want to table all of the JFBB together? I mean, that's the two
well, if
choices.
we table it, will we lose the policy piece where we have to reassess students that are
Yes.
making, I mean, I think that's, if we agree to that, we should put that in, maybe talk about the capping, if we could do
At a
those
later
two things
date.
separately. I think that would be a good protection for the district to have in there.
And you won't need a motion to amend it to take that out, because
Right.
during a second reading, we make lots of changes.
Right.
So
Okay.
I'll just strike it.
Okay. So that shouldn't change our Exhibit A at all then?
No, it should not.
Okay.
All right, you do have some policies on hold in second reading, so just to be aware of that. We're still, as a governance team, and particularly more as a board, you're working on policy AD with core values, vision, and mission, so that's coming along. Then also the qualifications, powers, and responsibilities of the superintendent. Again, I've recommended that this be held. My next evaluation is in June, and the final evaluation is in October. So I would recommend with this policy that you don't move it to third reading, but I would love to have a quick discussion, if it's okay, President Chard, with timelines and what would work best. And we don't have to answer this tonight, but I just want to put the question out there. That we talked about revising my role as it shows in the red line version of CBA, CVC, and that I would be evaluated on that new role in 26-27, along with our strategic goals, everything that came out of our board retreat. As this policy, where I just want to discuss is right now, you'll review me on the old tool in June. That will just be an informal conversation during the work session.
So
Yes,
before you move
please go
on
ahead.
from that piece, what we're anticipating, Lacey's gonna send out the tool, but you don't have to turn it in, right? So just guidelines to go through so that when we get together and discuss, you have the tool there as a guideline. However, if you do want to make notes on it and have Lacey print it, she can sure do that and provide a printed copy with your notes on it for that discussion.
This isn't the document that goes into my file. This is just feedback.
Right.
What am I doing that you want me to continue to do? What do you want me to stop doing? What do you want me to start doing? It's that. Hey, Marcia, you're clear off over here and you need to come back here. It's that kind of a conversation so that when we get to my final evaluation, it's not a surprise, right?
Which
yeah,
is
they're telling
October.
me.
Yeah. That final eval in October will be, we'll ask that everyone submit that, and that'll go in Marcia's record.
And so you probably have already drawn a line to my question, which is if my final evaluation is in October, which it is according to our contract and so forth, we're using the current tool for the October. So you have feedback in February, feedback in June on that tool, final in October. Is that still the timeline and the process that you want to follow? You're the board, so you get to decide however you want to do this. So we can change things and change documents as we need to. I just want to make sure you're not surprised to see the old tool in October.
I'm trying to recall why we established that timeline. Was that a timeline established because of you coming into the district and like to do the first eval of your employment so soon? The start of the school year didn't make sense to us, and that's why the first eval of a year is clearing the second semester. I'm trying to recall how we established that timeline, because that timeline does seem a little off. Like, to me, I would think that your final eval of a year
Would be now.
would be at the conclusion of that year, allowing you to make adjustments for the coming year.
Right, which is the concern. I think why the final is in October is if you're not going off of the information from that school year, but you're really focused on whether you're going to use that to renew or to non-renew me. But that is not really how the contract states. You could give me a great evaluation and still say, no, we're terminating your contract. The board has that right.
And vice versa.
And the opposite.
You could give a horrible evaluation and still re-up it.
According to the contract.
Yeah.
I want to do what makes sense. You would get CMAS, PSAT, SAT data in August, if that's important to you to be able to base your evaluation. So that could be another reason. October does feel late. And we don't have to, well, we would because it's in contract. We'd have to amend the contract, do an addendum. But it would be helpful to be able to have a final evaluation and then go, okay, exactly what you're saying, Mr. Miller. This is what you're doing well. This is where you need to get better. And then if we're going to implement a new role, clarifying that role, and this is what my, this is where I'm focused, this is my strategic goals here in October then, hey, let's give you some feedback on how you're doing on that. And then in February, have some feedback. And then in June, here it is. Yes, you wouldn't have CMAS or PSAT, but you know what? That's not our end game, that's accountability as a system. You could still look at the previous year in the SPF. I mean, that could still be a part of the conversation.
And those test scores they're not on our evaluation tool yet. I mean, we don't have, those aren't part of any of your contract or the evaluation or the strategic goals at this point.
And eventually we'll have student outcomes as, on that. And it could be over, the previous year or whatever. So there's ways to do that. Just something to consider. And like I said, you don't have to decide tonight unless you really want the final to be in June, and then we would need to do something. But that's something that has just been, I've been wrestling with as we hold off on CBA, CBC.
So would we hold off on these until after October? Leave them in second reading till then, or?
You really wouldn't need to. If you did my final evaluation in June, if you chose to do it that way, or July, you wanted to do the final evaluation, and you do an addendum in June and say, hey, we're going to do your final in July. We're going to make June short and sweet, and let's do a final. You could then move forward with this at the next board meeting, and then do the final approval in July, and then it's ready to go.
But if we decide to do your final evaluation in October, we probably need to hold off on this till after then, because
It's just because then you're putting this into policy, and this is different than what we have.
Right.
So we just want to make sure that whatever we put into policy is what we want our practices, and vice versa. So something to consider. Again, you don't need to decide tonight. There's something to think about. What makes sense to you? On CBI, that very next policy, that's where your dates are. You see that? Summative in October, mid-year in January, February, and an end-of-year evaluation. Oh, this one says, this is what I was going to change it to. You can see, me too. So that's what you could change it to, but you don't have to. Your call. All right. Last but not, oh, and then you have CBIR. Last but not least, you have for third reading several policies. And they are all listed there. I won't go off. Well, maybe I will, just in case the public wants to hear. The organizational structure for 2627 is there. Policy EEAG-E, which is the exhibit to the policy EEAG, which is a memo of understanding for a student being transported in a personal vehicle. Policy GBEAE is the exhibit for staff ethics and conflict of interest. GBEB is the staff conduct and responsibilities. GBGG is staff sick and general leave. GCE-GCF-R is the professional staff recruiting and hiring. And GCL is professional staff schedules and calendars. GD is support classified staff. And GDBC is support staff supplementary pay and overtime. GDQB is resignation of support staff. And last but not least is GDQD, discipline, suspension, and dismissal of support staff. As I shared during the last board meeting, this is more G policies than I like to present to a board. We're doing that because we needed to make some revisions in preparation for the employee handbook so that it all was in alignment to law. And with that, I'm done.
Can we discuss a little bit on third reading policies?
Third reading, they're ready to go to final?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Around third reading
Yeah,
policy.
absolutely.
I know that GBGG's been a thing. We've been on it a bunch and stuff. And I continue to go back to how imperative it is for student outcomes, for our teachers to be in the classroom. I mean, you've brought that to this district. That's been one of your pillars and your stumps, for lack of a better term. And I agree with that 100%. And I continue to go round and round with this policy and looking at the amount of leave in comparison to the number of instructional days. And it's not about the cost of the district, it's not about the time that our staff needs, it's about what do our students need, for me. That's what it's really about. And with a reduction to a 4-day school week, and just ensuring that our students are getting all that they need in 140 some odd days, the exact number, I still have concerns, because in reality, 88 potentially, if there's bank days, 88 hours of general leave plus 48 of sick leave is greater than 10% of those instructional days by my math. So, with that being said, I don't know what the right answer is, and I'm not saying that I have a different answer or this isn't right or it's wrong or anything of that nature, but is there any ability for us as a board from this previous school year or over the coming school year to be able to see data that can translate to us what it truly looks like in our district for our regular teachers in the classroom with our students?
Data on absences or
Well, it'd
absences
be
and-
tied to absences.
Absolutely, we have that in Frontline. That's an easy report to pull. I appreciate you bringing that up and acknowledging the challenge that GBGG has been, because there's been a lot of questions and there's been a lot of misconceptions about GBGG. First, I want to address too that you said the most important thing is that teacher, and it's so true. Our instructional time with our great teachers is the most important thing. And what I love about our staff, one of the many things, is that a lot of them have not taken leave, not because that's what I love, but it's because they care so much about kids. I mean, like they're there, they want to be there. And that was their frustration, is like, gosh, I have all this leave. And one of the misconceptions then with that was like, well, we got rid of the separation benefit. That is inaccurate. The separation benefit is still there. That hasn't changed. The only thing that changed with the separation benefit is that those 5 stipulations that they had to donate X number of days, 5 days to sick bank, it had to be amiable, all of those things is no longer there. They just have separation. The other concern, misconception, is about banking general leave, that 480, that also didn't change. Another change that happened is that we split sick leave and general leave, and that was painful. And where that was painful was because now they're able to bank 48 hours of general leave every year. And the 48 hours of sick leave goes into a limitless sick bank, personal sick bank for themselves. Most staff, that works because that's what they use their general leave for, is for sick. So, because those are like your doctor appointments or whatever it might be. Where some of the concern that I heard recently is that they were losing that $9.38 an hour that they would get when they meet 480 hours of accrued leave and go over that. They're missing those 48 hours that are going into that limitless sick bank. And there's a feeling of a fiscal loss then for that $9.38. And there is, and the board also has provided additional hours of leave starting this coming year with this policy GBGG, where you were providing 88 hours a year, you're now providing 96 hours. So that's one, so there is a fiscal giving into those additional hours. And that again is, I believe, a misconception, is that we're actually taking away, we're adding a whole bunch of hours to them. We're actually making it easier to have separation benefits. Some of the frustrations I've heard are just they've looked at the policy now and just didn't realize things. But there have been a lot of misconceptions around this policy. Our students attend 149 days. And every minute of those 149 days matters. Our staff attend 162, and we provide 96 leave hours that are paid. Now you can take unpaid leave hours, but we have 96 paid hours. Yes, in my opinion, I do feel like that's generous. I know not all agree with me on that. At my heart, my husband is a teacher. I'm not against staff or teachers by any means. My daughter is a teacher. My son-in-law is a teacher. I was a teacher. Like I care about staff a lot, and I know that if they feel valued, right, they're going to do that in return. So there has been some frustration that it's been shown to, like, Marcia's just doing something, or the board. No, that's not it. You now have we did cease the sick bank, but we also opened up donated days, so you could donate more days. So I think the GBG policy, again, is beneficial to staff. It's not meant to hurt staff. So just my response to your thoughts there.
Yeah, and I hope you didn't take that as I was saying that it was hurting staff.
No.
I was saying that
It's
perhaps
helping
in
kids.
comparison to what you would see in a traditional work setting, right? And leave days, comparison to work days, it's extremely generous. And I want to make sure that we have the proper balance and ensure that our policy and our practices ensure that our students are receiving the appropriate amount of time with the teacher in the classroom. That's the point I was trying to make. And so that led me to saying that I don't know that they are or are not, and I don't have a position on that, but if, as a board, we can see some data representing that in general, because there's one-offs, right? There's illness and sickness and events and things of that nature, but I would be a lot more comfortable knowing that what I believe we're on the high side of leave days compared to work days in this policy. If I saw data that said, well, but they're not being maximized, and I'm comfortable, and your recommendation is that we're comfortable that our students are receiving adequate amount of time in the classroom with the teacher. Am I explaining that properly?
So did I
That's
hear-
where my concern is. I'm over the conversation about compensation for this leave hour and the fiscal part of it, because we've made a dedication in this district to focus in our primary, and that means not just us and not just you, every single person in this district, including stakeholders, we hope in this community, is that it's students first and what do our students need to, in order to achieve. And I think it ties back to this to some degree.
And I think that's a great question, is that, what I heard you say is, yes, it's a generous policy. Let's make sure it's not hurting kids.
That's correct. Thank you. You did a lot better job summarizing that.
And I can provide that data.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts on policy? Okay, next item of business, community comment. Doesn't appear that we have any this evening. We'll move into action items. Next item of business will be 11.1 Rocky Mountain Construction Company mediation. Is there a motion for 11.1?
Maybe let me get to it. See one.
There is no motion. Next item of business, 11.2 personnel.
I Move to approve the personnel report as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the personnel report as presented. Is there any discussion? There is no discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Chart?
Aye. Motion carries. Next item of business, 11.3, 2026-2027 staff recommendations.
I move to approve the 2026-2027 staff personnel list as presented dated May 18th, 2026, superseding all prior versions.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2026-2027 staff personnel list as presented dated May 18th, 2026, superseding all previous versions. Is there any discussion? There is no discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Chart?
Aye. Motion carries. Next item of business, designation of 2026-2027 critical shortage areas and procedural rescission of prior conditional offers. Is there a motion for 11.4?
I move that the Board of Education designate the presented positions as critical shortage areas for the 2027 school year pursuant to CRS 24-51-1101 and Para Rule 16.20 and rescind the conditional offers of employment previously extended for these positions.
Second.
So moved and seconded that the Board of Education designate the presented positions as critical shortage areas for the 2026-2027 school year pursuant to CRS 24-51-1101 and Para Rule 16.20 and rescind the conditional offers of employment previously extended for these positions. Is there any discussion? There is no discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Chart?
Aye, motion carries. Next item of business, 11.5, non-instructional director contract template.
I move to approve the non-instructional director contract template as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the non-instructional director contract template as presented. Is there any discussion? There is no discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Chart?
Aye, motion carries. Next item of business, 11.6, ELA curriculum.
I move that the Board of Education of Brush School District RE2J approve the adoption of the Core Knowledge Language Arts CKLA's curriculum for English Language Arts instruction for grades K through 5 for a term of 6 years and approve expenditures not to exceed $218,000 for curriculum and resources and not to exceed $28,000 for professional development.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education of Brush School District RE2J approve the adoption of the Core Knowledge Language Arts CKLA curriculum for English Language Arts instruction for grades K through 5 for a term of 6 years and approve expenditures not to exceed $218,000 for curriculum and resources and not to exceed $28,000 for professional development. Is there any discussion?
Curiosity, was CKLA out of the two the first or the second?
First,
Pilot.
it was the fall.
It was the first one.
Any other discussion? No further discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Chart?
Aye, motion carries. Next item of business, 11.7, K through 12 tech use guidelines.
I move to adopt the Brush School District Technology Use Guidelines for the 2026-2027 school year as developed by the Technology and AI Task Force as presented to the board, effective with the start of the 2026-2027 school year.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adopt the Brush School District Technology Use Guidelines for the 2026-2027 school year as developed by the Tech and AI Task Force and presented to the board, effective with the start of the 2026-2027 school year. Is there any discussion? There is no discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess. Aye. Mr. Holdren.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mrs. Stone.
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini.
Aye.
Mr. Chart.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item of business, 11.8, Student Information System Multi-Year Quote. Is there a motion for 11.8?
I move to rescind the action taken at the March 16, 2026 Board of Education meeting approving the service agreement with Alma and to replace it with approval of the revised 5-year service agreement with Alma at an annual cost of $26,992 and a contract term total of $134,960. Term beginning July 1st, 2026 and ending June 30th, 2031, and to authorize the superintendent to execute the agreement and any associated transition documents from the current student information system.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to rescind the action taken at the March 16th, 2026 Board of Education meeting approving the service agreement with Alma and to replace it with approval of the revised 5-year service agreement with Alma at an annual cost of $26,992 and a contract term total of $134,960. Term beginning July 1st, 2026 and ending June 30th, 2031, and to authorize the superintendent to execute the agreement and any associated transition documents from the current student information system. Is there any discussion? There is no discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess. Aye. Mr. Holdren.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mrs. Stone.
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini.
Aye.
Mr. Chart.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item of business, 11.9, digging into literacy professional development.
I move to approve the Digging into Literacy Professional Development engagement as presented at a cost not to exceed $20,000 to be funded from grant funds.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the digging into literacy professional development engagement as presented at a cost not to exceed $20,000 to be funded from grant funds. Is there any discussion?
I thought, did I hear Ms. Kimball's report to say that potentially funded by grant funds?
We're planning to. It is through title funding.
You do have grant funds? Okay,
Yeah. I think the potential was with the curriculum.
okay.
Any other discussion? No further discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess. Aye. Mr. Holdren.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mrs. Stone.
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini.
Aye.
Mr. Chart.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item of business, 11.10, TPS roofing change order number 2.
I hereby move to rescind the motion approved on April 2nd, 2026, authorizing the superintendent to execute a change order to the Thompson Primary School re-roof contract with Buildings by Design and to replace it with the following: that the superintendent be authorized to execute change order 02 to Thompson Primary School re-roof contract with Buildings by Design to include the hail damage, repair, replacement work for the AG or H building, the administrative building, and the bus barn in accordance with Building by Design's proposal dated March 12, 2026, in the amount not to exceed $1,210,929 to be paid therefore from the insurance fund, with the execution of the change order contingent upon receipt and satisfactory review of the requested supporting documentation from Buildings by Design.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to rescind the motion approved on April 2nd, 2026, authorizing the superintendent to execute a change order to the Thompson Primary School re-roof contract with BBD and to replace it with the following: that the superintendent be authorized to execute change order 02 to the Thompson Primary School re-roof contract with BBD to include hail damage repair replacement work for the AGH building, the administrative building, and the bus barn in accordance with BBD's proposal dated March 12th, 2026, in a total amount not to exceed $1,210,929 to be paid therefore from the insurance fund, with execution of the change order contingent upon receipt and satisfactory review of the requested supporting documentations from Buildings by Design. Is there any discussion? There is no discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Chart?
Aye, motion carries. Next item of business, 11.11, 2026-2027 preliminary budget.
I move to accept the 2026-2027 preliminary budget as presented by the Chief Financial and Operating Officer and to direct the Superintendent and CFOO to publish notice of the budget's availability for public inspection in accordance with CRS 22-44-110, with the public hearing and proposed budget adoption to be scheduled for the June 8, 2026 regular board meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the 2026-2027 preliminary budget as presented by the Chief Financial and Operating Officer and to direct the Superintendent and CFOO to publish notice of the budget's availability for public inspection in accordance with CRS 22-44-110, with a public hearing and proposed budget adoption to be scheduled for the June 8th, 2026 regular board meeting. Is there any discussion?
I'm just making sure that our regular board meeting is just 1 week after our work session for June. Okay.
That's
Just
correct.
making sure.
Any other discussion? No further discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Chart?
Aye, motion carries. Next item of business, 11.12, cafeteria tables using food service funds.
I move to approve the purchase of 19 round cafeteria tables with Core Protect Edge stools from Hertz Furniture for Thompson Primary School in the amount of $29,928.24, including delivery to be paid from the Food Service Funds, Fund 21, consistent with allowables uses under the National School Lunch Program.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the purchase of 19 round cafeteria tables with Core Protect Edge stools from Hertz Furniture for Thompson Primary School in the amount of $29,928.24, including delivery to be paid from Food Service Funds, Fund 21, consistent with allowable uses under the National School Lunch Program. Is there any discussion? There is no discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Chart?
Aye. Motion carries. Next item of business, 11.13, policies.
I move to adopt the policy changes as outlined in Exhibit A, Policy Action Summary, May 18th, 2026, including all final approvals and advancements to third reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the policy changes as outlined in Exhibit A, Policy Action Summary, May 18th, 2026, including all final approvals and advancements to third reading. Is there any discussion? There's no discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Holdren?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Stone?
Aye.
Mr. Tadalini?
Aye.
Mr. Chart?
Aye. Motion carries. Next item of business is information items. So we've got our work session Monday, June 1st at 6 p.m. And then the next regular board meeting will be June 8th at 6 p.m. Next item of business, clarifications or next steps. Mrs. Cody, do you have any clarifications on anything that occurred during the meeting?
I do not.
Any board members? Any board member have anything during this meeting that you feel needs addressed in policy or added to a future agenda or work session? Very good. No further business. This meeting is adjourned.